Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together.
Hey, wily ambitious leader. Welcome back. It is Thursday, and I am so excited to have my co-host back here with me, Carol. I know it's been a few weeks, and it's been so fun to have all the guests that we've had on the podcast, but it is so great to be back with you. And why don't we just get started off with you sharing a little bit about what you've been experiencing over the last couple weeks. I mean, it hasn't been months, right? Like it's been, I might feel like it's been a while. And really leaning into what we want to bring to you today, listener, is really leaning into when it comes to you and being the irresistible bold leader and being unleashed and unstoppable. It really takes the foundation of building a solid foundation in you. We look at neuroscience, we look at the brain, and it's also looking at the body and the mind and the soul. You know, we had Jen on a couple of weeks ago talking about the power of the breath work. And then, you know, Danielle last week talking about just like what it takes to be able to really, you know,
such great episodes.
Build your best life, right? And building out that life that you love. And all of this is so great if you're here and you're healthy to be able to really enjoy it. And so we want to unpack today for you what that looks like for you and how you can really support yourself and set yourself up for success, not just with the tangible success of business and wealth, but also with your health and your relationships and your family and community, so that you truly get to thrive in all areas while putting your oxygen mask on first and really taking care of numero uno, which is you. So welcome back.
Hi, I'm so glad to be back. Just to fill you in, listener, on what happened with me in early June. Hello, I had a big surprise, and I don't mind sharing it here. I had a heart attack, and it was something that was so surprising to me because I really focus on my health, take good care of my health. I have a rare combo of diseases, autoimmune diseases, and I'm so excited to lean into healing. I'm so into healing right now and seeing all kinds of possibility. But one of these autoimmune diseases I've lived with for 51 years with no complications. And that is because, you know, I enjoy life. I live to the full. And for that reason, I think it was an even bigger surprise for me because I'm like, hey, what's going on here? And I can't wait to lean into this conversation with you, Alex Leanne, and with you, listener, because I have begun to realize where I was a frog on the boil. Right? Not that we want to boil frogs, but you know, the fact that there were little things that were creeping up subtly that I wasn't paying attention to that were becoming a part of my wired in comfort zone. So thinking I'm okay when in reality, hello, little wake up call, you got some more work to do. You got some things to pay attention to in order to move forward in, for me, creating the vision, continuing on the journey of manifesting the reality I want in my life. And if you're anything like me, you've experienced an obstacle that set you back, took you by surprise. And I think probably one of the first things besides being a frog on the boil that I want to share is the recognition that setbacks in this case, thank you, are temporary. All setbacks are
Mm,
temporary. And
yeah.
it may be an extremely serious setback, it's still temporary. You still have an enormous amount of power in your life to unleash. So yeah, it's been a journey, right? And changing some things and doing some things differently. And I know you've been on that journey too, Alex, but with a different focus. Um, I guess our focuses really are the same, but I would love to hear you dive in on the habit changes that you've been making as well.
Well, I just wanted to reiterate something too there, Carol, about, we mentioned this before on this podcast about the body keeps score,
Yeah,
right? And it is those little subtle things that if changes are not made, that the
yeah,
body keeps scoring it. It's going to communicate to you in one way or shape or form. We talk about burnout. I mean, it's part of what we take a stand for,
yeah,
why we bring the neuroscience to you and leaning into the leadership piece because of it's it's decisions that you get to take, and there's changes that also get to be made, and it
yeah,
is so easy to just be in comfort even though the comfort's not serving you, be in that automation even though it might not be serving you,
yeah,
and not be ready or willing, or again the brain is blocking us from creating, making changes as well. And something that I was sharing with you before we were recording is that I was leaning into, this hard 75. And if you haven't heard about hard
yeah,
75, the neuroscience behind it is fantastic because we know it takes roughly 67 days to wire in, a new thought belief, but also a new habit.
yeah,
And so the thought here, committing to hard 75, is really leaning into and breaking old habits that don't serve you to then create habits that do serve you.
right.
Now, on a higher level with neuroscience, there's a lot of value in it, and um, it's it's a fantastic theory in terms of, the theory behind how it works and all of those things. But having gone through a couple rounds of it, there was something that was coming up for me. And one of the things that came up for me when I was looking at, especially postpartum, with two little ones, like
Yeah,
the idea of it is great, but I always kept feeling there were things that were missing.
right.
And upon some reflection and even some research lately around the hard 75, and there's like the soft 75, I was like, I don't know. Then there's the soft, which wasn't landing with me. And I'm like, it goes back to intention. It goes back to vision. It goes
Mm,
back to like why, right?
it
There's
sure
value
does.
in the 75 days because it does help you build the
Yeah,
new habits. But why are we doing this in the first place? And
right.
something that came to me was strong, right? Creating the strong
Mm,
mind,
I love
strong
this when you
body,
said this. Yeah,
and the strong soul. Then that had me think about you, Carol, like
yeah,
looking at strong, right? And many different assets. We're thinking about building a strong
yeah,
heart. I think we talked a little bit about, the
yeah.
doctor said to, like, heart is a muscle, and guess what? You can
Strengthen it.
re-strengthen it, right? So there's a
Yeah,
strength there, there's a strong there. I thought, let's look at, okay, what is some of the advice that you've been given to help strengthen the heart, right?
yeah,
And then looking at some of the things that we can contribute and create the time and space for in our
yeah,
days to yes, put our oxygen mask on first, put ourselves first, and being so mindful of the
yeah,
changes that we get to make and the decisions there to create the result of being strong, having that
yeah,
strong mind, that strong heart, that strong body to create the energy, create the productivity, create the results, but it not just being about a to do and a checklist, which is
mm,
kind of what I noticed with Heart 75, kind of became that way
yeah,
versus
yeah.
really leaning into what we talk about oftentimes with intention and power. So,
And
um,
yeah, I love that. I think it's interesting because you touched on something that's so powerful and important. Our bodies are absorbing the stress, the energy we're in, the frequencies we're around. And for me, in terms of putting on my oxygen mask, that really became something I had started to talk about. I was noticing stress, just a confluence of
mm,
events It's the way we deal with stress, right? It's the way we deal with the obstacles that are coming up and the actions we're taking. Our bodies are listening, they're absorbing all the time. And so for me, it's been a beautiful interruption,
Mm,
right? Because
yeah.
in the interruption, I have been able to slow down. And what's happened in the slowing down process is you do get off the burnout bus. Also, you listen to your inner voice, your intuition, and
Mm,
creativity and solutions open up and productivity opens up. And it is so counterintuitive. We get on the hustle bus, and I can tell you in dealing with the wealth realm, you are not going to get wealthy on the hustle bus. Now, you may, granted, get wealthy, but to be able to sustain it and enjoy it and have it happen is not typical when you're hustling and grinding because you can't
mhm,
trade time for money and become wealthy. It's about putting your money to work for you and the principles of wealth that I teach, right? The important thing here for me was being able to have an interruption. And leads to the next step. You mentioned the oxygen mask. I had been talking about that, and I want to drive home the point that if you are sitting passed out, like pretend like this is a plane seat, and I'm busy, which I have been many times, in full honesty, putting my oxygen mask on everybody else. I'm passed out in the seat. Who am I going to serve? Who am I going to help? I can't help myself, and I certainly can't help anybody else. And so when this happened, Alex Leanne, um, after a heart procedure following the heart attack, it was super interesting because anesthesia can cause your oxygen rate to drop, and it did. My nurse came in; she noticed I had the little tube, and she was like, "Your oxygen rate is dropping," and she's like, "Here, we need to put a mask on you, an oxygen mask, and get your oxygen levels up right away." And I was literally looking up and just chuckling. I was like, "You're doing this, aren't you? You're giving me this literal picture of, hey, slow down, put your oxygen mask on first so that you can be aligned with your mission, your values." For me, it is making as many of you wealthy, abundant, prosperous, in heart alignment, heart centered with joy as I can, right? And how am I going to do that if I'm passed out in the seat? So, and the lessons continue to roll. There were so many. And I really appreciate the fact that our bodies do absorb. And so, if you're in a situation right now where you are under stress and you think that maybe you're, I don't want to say getting away with it, but getting away with the way you're dealing with it. Um, the awareness is so important when we come to the neuroscience. And again, transferring things from being hard to where we can really lean into our why. I know what my mission is, and you know what yours is, and that is the fuel that drives us. But then where can we step into keeping our own cups full? We talk about this a lot. And certainly it goes back to knowing who we are, right? But these reminders that we need. So take a moment, pause, let the interruptions happen, listen, let the creativity happen, just like you're saying, Alex, where taking this from hard to strong, like, that's a creative process. What motivates me? What fuels me to move forward in the habits that are going to serve me? And of course, knowing our brains always jump to the how and the solution. It's really in the pause that these things start to happen. And when we're high achievers, that's so counterintuitive. We're like, pause, wait, what? I got things to do. So, yeah, been a good journey with the interruption and the oxygen mask, and getting back to intention
Mm.
and the why. It's very motivating.
Well, and that's what, when I'm looking at, go back to the 75 hard or 75 strong piece, it was like I continue to choose that as like a method to support me in creating some of the discipline around getting the workouts in and increasing the
Yeah,
water intake, and and there's also the savers we've talked about before with Hal Elrod. And so
yeah,
there's things that are missing. And I often have found myself like trying to doing the savers and the hard 75. And then it's like, I'm like, overcomplicating it because that's what
yeah,
our brains like to do. And like trying to get all these in versus simplifying it and really leaning into this wanting to be strong. And what does that look like for me to be strong in what I'm creating, and
yeah,
having the oxygen mask on first, and creating that space. So I'm really curious for you, Carol, because our bodies are so important. And of course, everyone, we really do want to avoid like getting to those places where we're experiencing health challenges.
yeah.
What I'm really, really curious to know, like, what are some of the things that the doctors shed light on, or some things to take in consideration when you're looking at building back up your strong heart, and even for you looking at building 75 strong? Because the way my vision for looking at even
Yeah.
changing those out there that are working towards 75 hard is like create 75 strong for you, and what does that get to look like? And I'm curious
Yeah.
to know for you, what are some things that you would take into consideration, and even for the listener taking consideration, to build out that strong heart?
So specifically, what are those things where I was a frog on the boil?
Yeah.
Not paying attention to the level of stress I was under. I mentioned that. But also really simple things like, am I getting enough sleep? If you look at the stress umbrella, am I um, hydrating properly? Am I eating a lot of processed foods or eating out a lot? I don't eat a lot of processed foods. I'm an organic green girl all the way. However, when you are traveling and eating out a lot, there were things that were slipping that I wasn't paying attention to that I'm usually very mindful of. So that was a great reminder. Okay, get back to, you know, clean eating and
Mm.
eating as close to, for me, God's green earth as possible. The least processed foods are so important. Um, so, yeah, it was these kind of habits that those are three that I was like, okay, I need to take a step back. And when I'm dealing with a stressful situation, I need to create my own pause rather than allowing a health situation, and certainly a very urgent one, something that, many people die from, that
Yeah.
instead of allowing that to happen, creating the space for myself. And so another thing that I've learned on this journey that's been very important was to be an effective advocate for myself. And that was encouragement through many people, including you. You weren't even fully aware of everything, and you were saying, "Hey, remember to stay curious, to ask questions, to be an advocate for yourself." And the ability to do that played out over and over and over again in a much better outcome of care that I received. So it is about being able to listen to yourself, trust yourself, stay curious, ask questions, and so that you can start to really know from an empowered place, from your unleashed and unstoppable self place, about what you're going to do to live the best life possible. Because it was invaluable to have excellent health care. I'm so grateful and appreciative. And if I only took their advice and I didn't incorporate it into my own um, advocacy for myself, then I wouldn't be empowered in the same way because you can tell me things all day long. Even going back to the worthiness piece, interestingly enough, it's you can tell me I'm worthy all day long. It's that internal work. We've got to believe it and incorporate it for ourselves. And this goes back to the rewiring work that we talk about based on our identity, based on our why, and the intentions that we want to set for the reality that we want to create and manifest. And so, yeah, being able to advocate for yourself gives you freedom of choice. It gives you a sense of control and empowerment in a situation that may feel scary for you or threatening for you. Um, for me, it was very helpful in being able to take things in an internal way. Yeah.
Well, and just going back to the piece of like, there's the knowing, right? Which is like the head knowledge. And then there's really in your heart under like feeling it.
Hmm.
And it goes back to you, the vision, your
Yeah.
intention was important to you, and to stay in that place of curiosity and that
Yeah.
openness piece so that you can see what's important to you. And I just think that's really, really powerful using your voice. Yeah, it was so interesting. I don't, I remember when we were in conversation, and it was something that I learned with having a baby. And
Yeah.
I remember it was
Yeah.
my, I don't know if it was my doula or my midwife just reminding, and I think in like the birth or baby classes, them
Yeah.
reminding you to use your voice, advocate for you, right? It
Mm.
might, then yes, the doctors and the medical system will say one thing, and you know, that doesn't mean that that is the only way, and
Yeah.
to be curious and to understand, because it's
Yeah.
really important to really to really understand that, because otherwise it's easy to feel like out of control, which is
Yeah.
not a good feeling, and of course is not safe, and our brains like to be safe, and so
Yeah.
that can have additional like after the
Repercussions.
aftermath,
Yeah.
right, type of
Yeah.
trauma and things that can come from that, right, when you're
Yeah.
feeling out of control. And so it was very, yeah, so something inside of me just came about like just remember to advocate for yourself, remember to ask
Yeah.
questions. It's something so subtle, and yet it is so powerful.
Yeah.
I've actually had that conversation with multiple times this week, where it is really so easy that because someone says something that you go along with it,
Yeah.
versus even though it's not aligned with with
Yeah. When
you,
it's out of alignment. Yeah.
yeah, but yet you go along with it versus
Yeah.
advocating, using your voice and speaking up. Like it's something that I think I've just kind of had in the back of my mind lately, is like it never hurts to ask.
Yeah.
Never
Mhm.
hurts to ask. You might as well ask. And the answer might be no, and that's okay. But
Yeah.
if you didn't ask in the first place, you're never going to know. And I've noticed like nine times out of
Yeah.
10, the answer usually actually tends to be yes, or maybe not right now, or there's an open for negotiation, right? It's
Yeah.
not necessarily a hard no, that
Yeah.
because of our brain and the negativity bias, we often walk around thinking that.
It's so
And
true. Yeah.
it's when we can be open and see what's possible, that then you can create something out of that.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
think
that's
that's a
kind of,
huge tip, just remembering that you can always ask. Like,
yeah.
it's so powerful. And I noticed too, alongside that, staying curious in situations. There were a couple of situations that arose that appeared to be big blockages or obstacles that came along, and they could have potentially stayed that way without taking a step back and staying in the curiosity space of where is this person coming from? Why are they saying this? What's going on? And when you're curious, instead of being in a judgment or in reactive mode, you can really step back and go and ask the question. And, then, like you said, you have information. You can say, okay, either I agree with this or I don't, but you're not wondering anymore. You're more in a place of empathy and collaboration instead of competition to work for a better outcome. And that applies anywhere, not just in health, but that applies in our relationships, our work situations. And I think that's really deep what you're saying, to remember to ask. And I just wanted to draw attention to that. It's a huge tip.
So for our listener, Carol, as we're wrapping up here today and going back and really thinking about building that strong mind, the strong body, your strong heart, what would you invite our listener to put into action today to be able to create that? Of course, we're always a stand for avoiding burnout or ending burnout cycles. So this is a great, you mentioned earlier about pattern interrupt. So this episode, my vision for this episode today was creating that pattern interrupt. So to have an opportunity to take a look at what's going on, taking that inventory, right? Are you putting your oxygen mask on first? Pattern interrupt so that you're changing the trajectory of what's happening so that you are stepping into building this strong mind and body and heart and putting that oxygen mask on first. So, for our listener, what's coming to mind for you, Carol, to really lean into inviting the listener to build that new muscle and then pattern interrupt what's not serving where they're going?
I think, in addition to the things that you and I have shared, I do want to say that I had written something down, and I don't have my glasses here. I'm going to grab my glasses and just mention this in light of your question for how you, as our viewer and listener, can, really lean in for yourself. And I would say, keep choosing the belief that everything is happening for our good, even when the circumstances don't appear that way. That was something that I got to do in this particular situation. And I know that's a little bit different than, what you've been able to do with the changing it to the 75 strong, right? Which is really powerful as well, because um, I think we can even go deeper there, instead of it being that checklist and taking it to something that aligned with the neuroscience that we both understand, and being able to build out a system that actually works for you. So this is an important reason actually to maintain the belief. Even when the obstacles come, I chose to trust that everything happened, the pain, the unknown, is setting me up for success. And a part of this process was trust and surrender, being able to believe in my intentions, my visions, my plans, and the timing of it, and for me to release it to God. Because over 90% of the universe is still unknown, and yet somehow I still think I'm in control at times, right? Now, I do very much know that we have been given the power to create. I am a firm, take a firm stance for that, and that we absolutely are where we are because of the patterns that have been wired in. But also being able to release the outcome and continue on the journey is super powerful. And I know we're going to talk about the power of community and, gratitude in the journey as well. So I just, if you want to go back and listen to these things, being able to keep your oxygen mask on, build in the time that you need to have awareness of any stress that's coming up, how you're dealing with it, building in good and healthy habits so you're not the frog on the boil, drinking enough water, simple things, getting enough sleep, eating good quality food. And these things can be really important if you are in an environment where you are experiencing any kind of setback or obstacle. Remembering setbacks are temporary. And being able to know that when you stay grounded in who you are, you absolutely can build in the habits that you want to build over the 67 days. And we have the process for you. If you want to go deeper, please DM either one of us. We are here for you. We want to see you be able to live the kind of life that you want to live. For me right now, I am zoned in, baby, on continuing the journey as long as I'm able. None of us knows when we have tomorrow. So play full out, live full out, go for the 75 strong, build the strong mind, body, spirit today while you have it.
Okay, something that just came to me because me, I like the tangible, like
Yeah.
as you were talking, here is like the specific action step of what Carol is sharing. Erase the calendar. Go back to a blank slate calendar and schedule out. Like, I've often said, like, pay yourself first. Schedule out your sleep.
Yeah.
Schedule out movement, exercise,
Yeah.
that, the rest of restoration, whatever
Yeah.
that looks like for you. I know for me, it's daily walk to get outside, to get the fresh air, get the body moving. It's a great way to break up the day.
Yeah.
And also just getting the body moving in the morning, stretching. I love my weights. So I definitely, there's some weightlifting in there.
So many good
And
things, right?
and really get that, right? And then the L is the things that you love to do, right? Like creating that space for
Yeah.
spending time with your loved ones, doing
Yeah.
things that you love to do,
Play.
right?
Yeah.
Spend time like laughing, like, oh,
Yeah.
there's another L word. I like, right? Like create that. And then
Yeah.
that F piece of the food that you're fueling your body with, looking at
Mhm.
how you are fueling your body, looking at environment, who you're surrounding yourself with, but really look at that in terms of from the blank slate of scheduling that out. So
Yeah.
that is like whatever, when you hear putting your oxygen mask on first, whatever
Yeah.
that means to you, get that on the calendar first, which
Yeah.
is which is very counterintuitive because it's so easy to schedule on the calendar all
Yeah.
my, the to-dos and the work and get
Yeah.
all that on the calendar first
Yeah.
and then schedule in the rest. Because to me, that's the pattern interrupt. So if
Yeah.
you were to think about, okay, creating 75 hard, 75 strong, 75 easy, whatever that looks like to support you in creating that, sort of, well, it is in a way, it is a bit of a container to support you in
Yeah.
creating whatever you want to create there. You start there because a lot of times people try to reverse it. It's like, I already have this really quote unquote busy schedule. Now I'm going to try and fit in hard 75, which is kind of why the
Yeah.
concept is there. Start with 75 strong on the calendar first. So that's
Putting the
on there
oxygen
first.
mask on first.
And
Yeah.
then insert everything else, right? And
Yeah.
again, if you are noticing that you are struggling with that, and that is a really foreign concept, because remember, your brain is used to safe and familiar, which is how you've been operating from now.
Yeah.
This episode is a pattern interrupt to rewrite, to make decisions, right? To make some changes
Yes.
and get into action on creating this new calendar for yourself, and then go out there and create the results that this is going to create for putting
And
your oxygen first.
you can do more than you think you're capable of through
Mm.
the rewiring process, through the priming process. You can start to wire in these new habits that are going to keep them long term and sustainable for you. And in agreement completely with everything that you said, and break it down small. That's the Pareto principle. Just take a baby step, like rather than allow your brain to get overwhelmed and go, oh, I can't do any of it. I need to do all of this. No, just
Guilty.
do one thing, get started, and then you can actually, what will happen is you will begin to build on it because it will elevate you in all areas, and you'll find that motivation is there. You'll be like, oh, I've got to win. I'm getting this down. I'm actually, drinking my herbal tea and whatever it might be. But that can be a really helpful part of the pattern interrupt that you're talking about. And I think this is really why it's powerful to have a mentor and a guide, a program that is going to be there and support you and be an advocate for you, because we're here to believe in you before you're even able to believe in yourself. And I have my own mentors and guides, including Alex Leanne, because it's really important and we don't always see all of our blind spots. So really hope this served you today.
There's one last thing I want to say before we wrap up here, because again, as you were talking, Carol,
it's like
something came
triggering
to
thought.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So as I'm looking at, creating and implementing Strong 75, I'm this week's experiment week.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is that I am, testing out and seeing what works best, because I want to set myself up for success. And what I notice a lot of times with any type of challenge, with any work we do, anything, it's like, okay, I'm going to start blah, 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 blah. And we just, we, as you're saying, Carol, you're trying to go from 0 to 100 like that. And that's not what sets ourselves up for success.
No.
And so my little breaking it down is experimenting and seeing, okay, what does this look like so that it's sustainable and can take place no matter what.
I love the freedom and being able to break it down. That again, that's that playful element of, oh, I can try this, I can experiment with that. Like, you're not locked in, and it's really empowering.
Because I am definitely, we just got back from holiday, and I, previously have been the person, all right, day one, I'm going to da-da-da. And, I think in most people, you might be great for, the first couple of days, and then you sort of fall off a little bit, right? Which, Hard 75, if you do fall off, then you restart again, which is fantastic and great. And to me, I see this as not just, okay, something again to get check box. No, I'm really looking at the lifestyle changes here and the shifts here. And so that's where I see the experimental take place. My day one is going to start actually next week, once I've played around with what I see works best, and really setting up myself for success, and working with, obviously, the family too, so that everybody's on board to support in setting up for success. Because a lot of, and I know we'll do our next episode on community, it's so easy to want to work in the silo of it all. But when you have people around you, you want to make sure that even though you're the one doing it, that you have some support and that everyone's there on board to support you, which is really important, which I guess it's Carol, I think that's a great transition for us to dive into. I listen to next week's episode where we talk about that and dive deeper a little bit about the power of community and setting up success.
Yeah, we're so excited. And, we appreciate so much when you subscribe and share this, which we mentioned here in a minute, but also want you to know that in our show notes, we always have links for you to be able to get in contact with us and to see the different offerings that we have and the free gifts that we have available for you. So be sure to check out the show notes, and we're so excited to serve you. Ciao for now.
See you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review, and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.